Ecuador, and I'm looking very forward to what you have for us this morning. So if you'll come now, we'd love to hear what you have for us. Please come. Welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, so we can grow things and butcher things too, hey? Wow. Let's not butcher this message today. Okay, I will be extremely frank with what we've been singing. If we sat and we listened and we dissected the words of those songs today, we actually don't need to speak. Our message that we have prepared today has already been sung. And there's that the attention to detail that your church has put into this worship service already is not lost on us. That it did bring me to tears for a moment, because if you sing those songs from all your heart, from the depths of your heart, be careful. Be careful, because you might end up across the pond. You just might. Or in some very, very crazy situations, which actually I've heard some stories from the fog walls today, which many of you get into here. It is an extremely challenging thing to be in the will of God, as was mentioned today. And so we thank you for those words. Thank you for these worship songs. And please take the time to go through and pay attention to the words that you just sang. Your church, Pioneer Baptist, has been a huge encouragement to us. When we were on the field in Ecuador, we would get a notification every once in a while. And often it was from members of this church, a great hello, a thank you, an encouragement. Even the increased support from the church is just a huge blessing to receive that when you're on the field. So we want to say a thank you to Pioneer Baptist.
So we are the Kranenburgs. We have spent 2 years in Ecuador. We have 4 children. You can see them there on the screen. The 2 on the bale are our younger 2 children, Chloe Ann and Levi. They were with us in Ecuador. And the older 2 boys, Josiah and Caleb, had to stay behind at Redeemer University. Caleb fell in love at Redeemer and married his best friend, so we now have Annika as part of our family.
Next slide, please, Natasha. In the next slide, when it comes up, you're going to see just a list of different ministries that we have been a part of, that we've developed while we are in Ecuador. I want to tell you a story. We landed in Ecuador where we had to learn Spanish. We learned a new language. It's a big job to do. We started learning, and that was our mission at the beginning, to be able to communicate with the people. But we weren't able to just sit back and learn Spanish. We got right involved right away. We had a ministry that we called Más que Vencedores. That means more than conquerors, which you'll read from in Romans 8. This is what our ministry was based out of. We started a softball ministry. There was a gentleman from the local church that loved baseball, as did I, so we decided to start it up. And Ecuadorians didn't know a lot about baseball, so sometimes they'd run to third instead of running to first, or try to throw with the glove instead of trying to catch with it. And so it took some time and some training, but we were able to play and have some great times of camaraderie as well as devotion and reading the Word. As we had short-term teams coming down, other things opened up. We went into a drug rehab center. In that drug rehab center, I invited a bunch of the men from the church to come and join in this ministry, and they came. This drug rehab center was just for men, and they had a small basketball court. They invited us to play against them in a game of basketball. They challenged our church to a game of basketball. Well, we played, and we got smoked. We did not do extremely well. Now, we did well with the devotional and the prayer time at the end, and they wanted us to come back later. That Sunday, the different men that came to this ministry came to me individually, each saying, "Wesley, can you please teach us how to play basketball?" It's a shame culture, honor shame, and people don't like being embarrassed. So We did. Every Tuesday, or we went on a Tuesday, and they invited their friends. We invited more people. A number of people, enough for a couple of teams, showed up, and we trained. And that training happened weekly. Every Tuesday we got together going forward and spent time in John. Every week we would do a devotional at the end and spend time in prayer. It was an amazing and a blessed time. That started just from grassroots of that's what the men wanted. And so we were able to go back and hold our own and compete at the drug rehab center. So many other ministries came up through that. We're going to talk about a few more of them. But from games on the beach when it got hot, and we played lots of things, volleyball, and we went into schools. I don't want to spoil everything because we're going to talk a bit more. But it was a really neat sports ministry.
We worked out of the local
Next
church.
slide, please. Sorry.
Yeah, which is called La Conexión Peninsular. In a second, you will see all their faces. What a wonderful group of people to work with. We made a practice of having people in our home once a week. We were learning Spanish, and picture this. Our church was on the second story of a building. We had a row of windows and a row of windows that had to be open because it was way too hot, and you hoped that there would be a breeze coming through. But the noises, I don't know if anybody's been to Latin America, but people are selling things on the street with loudspeakers, and they're going by just honking horns and just beeping, and very, very loud. So people love talking after church, but I couldn't even understand Wesley in English, much less anybody in Spanish. So we're like, we need to be able to make the atmosphere different. Let's bring them to our home. Let's give them a pot roast dinner, share a little bit about our culture with them, and be able to speak in a quiet place. So we did that. We played games with the kids. We sent our kids off with their kids, and often we had no language coming into it. So our kids were like, how do we play games without Spanish? But they did it. They managed. Poor kids. But yeah, so we had VBS with our church family. We did Bible studies with them. And we took them to various different ministry opportunities that we had. We would like to introduce you to you this morning, people that we met along the way, because the mission is the people.
Next slide, please.
So the first two people we'd like to introduce you to are Anna and Elena. When we were on our survey trip in 2021, I met Elena. Elena was, I don't remember her age at the time, 26, a young woman, and she had so many questions about missions. And we couldn't really converse back then because I didn't have a lot of language. But she and I met over Zoom in the years before landing in Ecuador, and it was a lot of quiet Zoom, let me say. Me with my translator and everything, trying to have a conversation. We laughed a lot because there was a lot of dead air. But once we ended up landing in Ecuador, it was just normal to have her in our home. So we invited her over, and she came with her friend Anna. And the three of us would play games at the beginning because we didn't have a lot of Spanish. And then as the weeks progressed, as I learned, the conversations got deeper and deeper. And they would ask me what it's like to have a family and to serve God with my family, how to raise children. Both of them are single women. And it just kind of became a really beautiful mentoring relationship. They came with us to various different ministries. One of them I want to talk about is into the schools.
Next slide, please.
So we'd go into the schools, and we'd have 3 different age groups of children. So we'd have grade 9s, grade 7s, grade 6s, or whatever. And we weren't allowed to talk about God, but we were allowed to have a moral conversation with the children. And so Wesley would come prepared with a lesson. And we decided really quickly that we were going to take advantage of our Spanish girls. So Wesley would teach the lesson to the first group of people, and then they'd switch up, and we would give the information to Elena, and she would teach the next group. And then we gave it to Anna, and her big brown eyes were like, no, Jessica, I'm going to die. I can't do that. And I said, if we're here doing it in a different language, I think you can handle it. She was a little more shy than Elena, a little more quiet, but she did a great job, and the children love her. So we weren't allowed to talk about God, but at Christmas time, because we were following the rules, they told us, you can tell the kids what Christmas is about. So we didn't just stop there. We gave them the whole gospel, and were able to give the gospel to those children. So Anna and Elena are now very active. They've been active in the church, but now they have more confidence to be able to go where God is leading them. Elena put a whole VBS together. I don't know if you do VBS here, but it's a lot of work to plan and prepare. She did all of the planning herself and had different people doing the singing and the games and the this and the that, and she was amazing doing that. They're also, the two of them are putting on a young adults group and meeting, I think, bi-weekly right now. And Elena has a real heart for her community. She lives in a very poor neighborhood. We were only able to go in with a large group when we had a group down because it was kind of a dangerous area as well. But she wants to see a church be planted in her area. And so we are trying to encourage her to do that, because why can't you do that? Not just the missionaries. So please be praying for Anna and Elena as they follow what God has put on their hearts to do.
Amen. In the next slide, you're going to see a bunch of teams. These are short-term teams that came down to Ecuador. Now, short-term teams are a huge blessing to the missionaries, huge blessing to the church, and of course, they come back richly blessed as well. And so when we're there, many people from our church join these teams and travel around with them. There are many big opportunities that teams can bring that we can't bring just ourselves. So we've had so many neat opportunities with them. In the next slide, you'll see just the wordless book that we used, but they also did skits and dramas, testimonies, sports, so many things to be able to minister to the people there. And it was a huge, huge blessing. Now, one of the teams, when they came down in the rainy season. The rainy season does not last long where we were. We were living in a desert. But when the rain came, the infrastructure was not prepared for it. So homes, streets would flood. So in the next slide, you'll see that there are a couple families and one of our teams that we met together, because I'd like to introduce you to Juanita. Juanita is the one in the orange. She prays for the people of her poor community. She was praying for these two families that lived in this block home. One of the men, he had lost his arm in a motorcycle accident. Juanita sent us a video of Rafael, this man, holding up with a broomstick, trying to hold his roof up as water poured down as he was standing knee-high in a flood in his own home. Well, we showed it to the short-term team that was there, and they wanted to go and do something. This was a team that was not there prepared for construction and things like that, but they wanted to go and minister to the families. So they went in and they prayed with them. They did dramas to try to excite the children, gave some testimonies. We sang some songs. And John, the gentleman who's holding the young girl, he was brought to tears. And through such a ministry of this, and I should actually mention that the team didn't feel like they had done enough. So they raised support from back home in Canada and their own money to be able to raise enough money to rebuild that entire structure and roof. And this is a picture of Juanita going in and paying for the supplies, and we were able to hire someone to finish this project. And through this work and through the VBS that Jessica was talking about with Elena, the children started coming to the church, and then both families started attending the church. So it's been a huge blessing. Next slide, please.
So on our survey trip in 2021, we met a family that asked us to come to the country with them and wanted us to, we were in a short-term missions trip at the time, and wanted us to do our skits and games and all that fun stuff with kids. So we went about 45 minutes into the country and met under a big tree for shade. And that is a story that time was part of the reason we went to Ecuador. It was the solidifying, we need to be here, we need to be part of this. This past February, February, we met with Operation Christmas Child. I don't know if you pack boxes in this church, but we went and we got to see them brought the boxes delivered to the church, and we got to be a part of being trained to do the big box opening event party. And it's not just a one-day thing. They have a 12-week program afterwards as well, and if the children come for 12 weeks, they get a Bible at the end. So we got to be a part of being trained to do that, but we didn't have a place to be able to do that. So we prayed that God would open up an opportunity for us to be a part of that great opening day, because
Next
we've
slide.
done a lot of box packing, but we've never seen the other side of the story. So we started praying, and God answered that prayer in bigger ways than we could have ever imagined. A couple days later, Wesley got a text from a pastor in the area, and he said, we need help doing our big box opening day adventure day. And I was like, okay, we're in. But then in the next couple days with the when, where, why, how, we realized that this was the same man from 3 years earlier that had invited us into the country. So I'd like to introduce you to Jose Luis and Maria del Carmen. The two of them, in the last 3 years, were able to put up a techo, a roof, and a patio where they're meeting weekly now with their children under the shade tree. They're meeting as a church weekly, and then wanted to use the Operation Christmas Child boxes to reach out further into their community.
Next slide.
We're going to show a video.
Yep. Next slide, and then the next slide. This is just a few pictures of us
We're going to
doing the
show
work.
a small video just so you can get a picture of the people and interacting with them.
And we were able to work for the 12 weeks after.
Oh, that's true. I didn't say
Yeah.
that right. Okay, so we were able to work for the 12 weeks after as well. And so these kids really became a part of our hearts. And there was one week where the pastor reached out to us and said, I'm sorry, we're going to have to cancel this Sunday because we have other things going on. And Wesley said, well, do you have to be there? Like, can we do it? And he's like, yeah, for sure. So we grabbed Anna and Elena, and off we went, and we taught that Sunday by ourselves. So here's the video.
It's okay.
Sorry, you'll have to get that one later, I guess.
And
Next
possibly
slide.
we can even send it to someone here to share with the
pass it
church. It's a
around, yeah.
3-minute video of our experience with Operation Christmas Child, and it was quite a blessing.
So if you can go to the next slide. I'd like to introduce you to Luna. Luna is a 15-year-old who got a box. We were there at her house visiting her family, and she said, just a minute. And she ran off to her room, and she came back with a Christmas box, and she showed us all her goodies. She got the box 5 years ago, and everything was always put back in her box. She would color with her crayons and put them back in the box. She would play with her dolls and put them back in the box. So I want to encourage you, if you do pack boxes, these children love them. They cherish them. But inside her box, there was also a letter. We're often encouraged to write to the children to make it a little more personal. And in that letter, she couldn't read it. It was English. And so I took her letter and I translated it for her. And there was an email at the bottom, and I said, would you like me to reach out? It's been 5 years, but we can try and see if the email still works. So I emailed the lady, and she emailed right away. So the next day I was able to translate the email response, and it was such a beautiful blessing for us, for that family, and for the family in California that had sent the box. So just an encouragement.
And I would like to introduce you to her parents. Her parents are Christian and Anita. You can see Christian in the top right, and his wife is one of the ladies on the right. They became friends of ours. He followed work down to the coast where we were at. They reupholster and clean furniture. And so we met them there because they started coming to our church and to our basketball events and our baseball. They joined right in. In our church, there were 3 North American missionary families, which actually helped with the various different ministries to grow that church in leadership, in number. And so we even had to move to a new location because of that. But we've decided that that we should go and expand this ministry and see where else there were needs in Ecuador. Well, there are needs all over the place. But we did a trip around Ecuador, and we thought, well, let's visit Anita and Christian, in the mountains. That's where their home was. And so we stopped by there, we met with them, and we got to know them and know their heart a lot more. They had sold their home right before COVID hit to buy a passenger van so they could drive students, children from and to school, and do before and after school programs to share the gospel with the children of their community. But when COVID hit, everything was shut down, and they were unable to do that. And they had to revert back to just finding a job where they could get enough food for their family that day. So they want to become national missionaries, supported by fellow Ecuadorians. And we're hoping that we can go back and find a way to encourage them in this. But on that same trip, we went down the mountain into the edge of the jungle. And as we hit the jungle, we found a campground. Next slide. Yeah, nicely done, Natasha. Didn't even need to say that. And in this next slide, you can see the camp. This camp was introduced to us by friends of ours who are actually missionaries in Mexico, but they grew up in Ecuador. And he grew up in this camp. His parents founded this camp. They encouraged us to go there, and we fell in love right away with the camp. But it didn't stop at the camp. In the next slide, you're going to see David and Carmen Vallesis. Now, this is a lovely family. They attend a church called Lamb of God Baptist Church in a town called Mera, which is just a few minutes down the road from the camp. David, he preaches twice a month, and Carmen, she is running the Awanza program, which is Awana, if you're familiar with that program. And their church is known, or that church is known for all the children that come. It's a very vibrant that way. But they are national missionaries. Just a couple years ago, they gained enough support from fellow Ecuadorians to become missionaries. And they have planted 4 churches within an hour-and-a-half radius of that church. And so we had the opportunity, in the next slide, you'll see us, I believe it's the next slide, yes. You'll see us at that church. So at Palora Biblical Christian Church, these are all translated from Spanish, by the way. You can see that we brought the children, we had games going on in the community. The children were attracted to those games that we were doing. We were doing a special soccer game. We had crafts. We were helping them with their songs and their lessons. It was at that moment when we were there that we realized this is where we are called to go. We are called to help and support this national missionary family and the church that is supporting them and encourage them, because we can see they are spread thin with what they are doing. And so they've asked us to come and help. We also will have some opportunities to work with the Shuar community. And the next slide, you'll see some indigenous people. We don't know what that will look like, but this is a community, several indigenous communities that we can have access to there. You'll see in the next slide just the circle where we're going to be living. It's at the campground. We are excited because we've introduced you already to some, and we're going to introduce you to a couple more people from La Conexión Peninsular, the church that we were at. And they want to be missionaries, and they're going to be coming to this camp with us to help to give them practical experience as missionaries within their own country to serve in these church plants. So this is a huge excitement that we are looking forward to.
When we first landed in Ecuador, we felt kind of inadequate.
Kind of.
We didn't have the language. Everybody said, well, just smile. They'll know that you love them. It still feels a little bit difficult. But God brought me to this passage in 1 Corinthians 2, 1-5. And Paul writes, "When I came to you, brothers and sisters, I did not come proclaiming the testimony of God to you with superior speech or wisdom. For I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I came to you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. My speech and my proclamation were made not with persuasive words of wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith may rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of God." In the next slide, you'll see, I'd like to introduce you to Sandra and Jonathan. In our last couple weeks in Ecuador, they wanted to have a going away party for us. So our church met at the church, and we put chairs in a circle, and they passed the mic. And like Wesley said, Ecuador, you have to talk or you're shamed. So everybody said something about us and how they met us and how they loved our different ministries that we were doing. But Sandra on the top there with the microphone, she got the microphone and she looked right at me. And she said, Jessica, we see that you've left your family, the comforts of Canada. You've left a language that you understand and a culture that makes sense. And you've come here to a language and culture that are harsh because it was difficult. They saw all of our difficulties. We couldn't hide it from them. But she said, we see that you obeyed God. He called you and you went. And though it was difficult, and she said, we want to do the same. So now Jonathan and Sandra, she wants to learn English. They don't know where God will be calling them, but they want to be missionaries into their country or beyond. And so continue praying for John and Sandra as well.
And Jonathan is continuing ministries that we have left behind, one of them being that softball ministry. And I just want to read this piece from the next slide, and it really does speak for itself. Jonathan wrote this, and I've translated it to you so you can understand it in English. Hello, brother. I want to express how grateful we are for the legacy you and your family left in Ecuador through the softball team. Thanks to that seed, we have grown a lot, not only as players, but also as a group united in God's purpose. Softball practices have become a routine that many look forward to. Each game is an opportunity to strengthen friendships, enjoy the sport, and above all, share the gospel at the end of each practice. Many non-Christians are coming and hearing the gospel. Seeing how the Lord is using this ministry is a source of great joy. Thank you for all you did and for the example you left. I want you to know that everything is in good hands and that the fruit of your efforts continues to give life, hope, and purpose to many. We're going to transition just slightly away from what God had been doing in Ecuador through these ministries into an encouragement for you, maybe perhaps a call for help, a call that God may be laying on your life. Again, if you were singing those songs with all your heart, you're ready for God to call you. You've met 6 different groups of people that we've talked about. We've talked about Anna and Elena. They're faithfully planning, teaching, running adult programs and VBSs. Even though they started feeling, in the start, they felt inadequate, or she was shy. We've introduced you to Juanita. Juanita continually prays for the people in her neighborhood. And she felt answers to her prayers when the short-term team was able to come to help and to bring the people that she'd been praying for to church. You met Jose Luis and Maria del Carmen, who've been faithfully ministering to a neighborhood out in the country where there are houses, block houses without windows and doors, a very poor neighborhood, yet they want to reach out even further into their community and use us to help them with the Operation Christmas Child boxes. You've been introduced to Anita and to Christian, who gave up everything so they could follow and as they were called to missions, and they still need prayer as they continue in missions, and we hope to be able to bless them. We introduce you to David and Carmen. They are the national missionaries that have asked us to come and join them, and we want to be able to encourage them and support their church that is sending them. And you were just introduced to Sandra and Jonathan, who also want to become national missionaries and who continue the work that was left behind. God is at work in Ecuador. He's at work throughout the entire world. He's at work here. He's at work everywhere. And you are a part of this. You're a part of it in your home, in your church, in this community. You're a part of it. Those of you who have supported beyond and to the ends of the world, you've supported those in Jerusalem, your Judea, and to the ends of the earth. About 10 minutes from where we are going to live is a town called Shell. That name might ring a bell for some of you. Just 70 years ago, this past January, there was a huge tragedy that happened in Ecuador. So we're going to be living close to that area. In 1937, a company called Shell, the petroleum company, moved into Ecuador. They put a an airstrip, created a whole petroleum business there in order to harvest the oil. They stayed there until around 1948. They had to leave because their workers were being killed by the indigenous peoples in the Amazon jungle. When you head out of Shell on the right-hand side, you see this airstrip. Right now, MAF, Mission Aviation Fellowship, is headquartered out of there in Ecuador. And on the opposite side of the street, you see an old wooden building. Has a dwelling place up top and a quaint little museum in the bottom called the Nate Saint House. Now, Nate Saint, Jim Elliot, those names might be what helps you to know what happened 7 years ago. Nate Saint was a missionary pilot that flew over the Amazon jungle with his 4 other companions and teammates. And these men were trying to connect with the indigenous people. It's an amazing story of martyrdom, of salvation, of grace, of forgiveness. And I urge you to look into more about this story, because I'm not going to tell you everything. One incredible piece of this, even though they were murdered on the shores of the river there in Auca territory, also known as the Warani people, is that their families, the families of these 5 missionary men, ended up going back into the jungle to live with these people. Even Nate Saint's son, Steve Saint, he was baptized by the very man who murdered his father. You really do need to look into this story. So standing in the museum, up on this, it's an incredible experience. Up on the side, you see a quote by Jim Elliot. It's a very famous quote. "He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose." Now, this is what Jim Elliot lived by. In Mark chapter 8, we're going to read just a few verses. And here you're going to see what it means, or hopefully reflect on what it means to pick up your cross to follow Jesus. You'll hopefully see how it's affected our family and perhaps be challenged yourself. So let's read Mark 8:34-38. Then he, being Jesus, called the crowd to him along with his disciples and said, "Whoever wants to be my disciple must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for someone to gain the whole world, yet forfeit their soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation," sounds familiar, doesn't it? "The Son of Man will be ashamed of them when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." About 6 years ago, Jessica and I, we were sitting in our living room. We had 4 other friends of ours from our now sending church. They were there with us as well. And we were studying the Bible. We were looking through some Bible studies where we were being encouraged to reflect on our lives and to understand what it means to give everything up in order to follow Christ. In the eyes of the world, we might say that we were on track. We had a beautiful home and a wonderful community. We had our cars. We had amazing children, very intelligent, a beautiful family. I had a great teaching job with good benefits and holidays. Our children absolutely loved each other and are best friends. I mean, what else could we ask for? But what would happen is we'd come home from work and we would be exhausted. And I was a junior high leader. I was a deacon. But did I really want to go and serve? I had no energy. I had no desire to do those things. So in our reflection, we wanted to know how we could follow Christ. What did that mean? Step number 1, losing our lives or sacrificing. So in the text of Mark 8, where it says denying oneself, this is verse 35, "For whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for me and for the gospel will save it." You can see that this is where Jim Elliot's message came out of, where that quote came out of. These men, the 5 men, they were living for the purpose of spreading the gospel in the Amazon jungle. They had left their own aspirations behind, not for their own gain, right? They were going to the ends of the earth for greater purposes, giving up or sacrificing their lives. And they actually ended up paying that price. Their identity was in Christ alone. They were following Christ, and no matter what others thought they should be doing. They've been a lasting testimony that is still changing lives to this day. As we walk the Christian life, as we are missionaries in a different country, it's not easy. You've all experienced hardships here too. It is not easy, this life that we have on earth. It's hard to live away from family. It's challenging when we're followed by a band of thieves in our local shopping center wanting to mug us, and we need security guards and police to escort us back home. It's tough when we're in our house and there are beer bottles being thrown over the wall, crashing outside of our daughter's window at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's discouraging when we are running different missionary events and only sometimes a few people show up. We thought it would be a much bigger event. And I have to admit, it's not always easy to be relying on other people and churches to support financially. It can be discouraging and can make us even forget, why are we here on the field? I know many of you have your own stories and your own experiences where you've had the same sort of doubts. Now, the new disciple believers that we interact with in Ecuador, they were not saved through missionary efforts. They're saved because the Holy Spirit had worked in their hearts and stirred up their souls. There's nothing they could do to earn salvation, no ritual, no tradition. All they could do was put their faith in the saving hope of Jesus by believing and acknowledging that he is the way, the only way, the truth, and the life. That he came to live amongst us as an example, but also to die as the sacrifice for us, replacing the punishment that we deserved, the death that we deserve because of our sins. But then he rose again and is preparing a place for us in heaven right this day. His followers, we are called to be united in him. All we can do is surrender our lives to him, denying ourselves, picking up our cross, and following him, to live in prayer, in the word of God, and to serve others with an attitude of servitude. We enjoy this free gift of grace from God, but we are all called, as we know in Matthew 28, as was sung this morning, to go and to make disciples, to go to the ends of the earth. But the verb, the most important, is to make disciples. It's not just about going. Yes, Jessica and I and family, we've gone. But you are here in your Jerusalem, in your Judea. Perhaps you are challenged. Maybe you are challenged to go. We would love to talk to you about that if that's the case. But here in your own Jerusalem, you should be preaching the good news and making disciples. So we are called to use whatever gift we have and what we have received, as in 1 Peter 4, chapter 4, verse 10, to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace, no matter where that might be. Now, God has sent us to Ecuador. We've learned some Spanish. We have worked with the people of La Conexión Peninsular. We've trained, encouraged, mentored people at that local church, and now we've been encouraged and we are accepting the challenge to move to a different location where we can work with these new church plants, with national missionaries, and we are excited that we can do that just to be an extension of you, of the people around the world who are praying for missionaries. And we thank you, we covet your prayers, and we just pray a blessing on you here at Pioneer Baptist Church as we go. Final slide. This is just a list of some things maybe that we were not able to talk about If you do want to meet with us sometime, please do. We are always encouraged to hear your stories and to share more about what God is doing. You can connect with us. I'm not offended if you take your cell phone out and take a picture of this so that you can connect in whatever way you feel fit. Please also meet with us at the table out back. We have prayer cards that you can have, that you can take and do what you want with them. We have a place for you to sign up for prayer letters, and we love to send them out. And many people have been encouraged by those. So please meet with us. We would love to be able to talk with you regarding any way that you can pray for us or connect with us. God bless, and I hope to see you out back.